French-Canadian reporter Stephanie Fillion specializes in foreign affairs and is based at the United Nations, where she writes for Passe Bleu, an independent, non-profit multimedia digital publishing company. Stephanie, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, a big week for the United Nations, a world that's still grappling with the pandemic, and some would say in quite a bit of turmoil. What should everyone be watching out for this week, do you think?
Well, there's going to be, of course, COVID. That's going to be a topic that's going to be discussed both within UN politics, but also in terms of country policies, international policies. But of course, the overarching theme for the week is definitely going to be Afghanistan. We're going to have to watch most leader speeches are probably going to talk about it. There are a lot of side events planned on Afghanistan, on women in Afghanistan. There is a G20 meeting on the topic. So we're going to see, because I think world leaders now are really trying to figure out how to move forward and also how to work together to make sure that the hard-won gains in human rights in Afghanistan are going to be defended. Other topics are going to be climate change. We're building up to the COP26 meeting that is going to take place in Scotland in November. And, you know, we're trying to make monetary, financial commitments for this important meeting. There's also going to be a Security Council meeting on climate and security. And hopefully the Security Council is hoping to come up with a resolution in December on the topic, and they're going to build up for that as well. And finally, another topic that we're going to watch for is who is going to speak for Myanmar and for Afghanistan, as governments have changed, are not recognized by the international community, and there have been some procedural debates about what to do about them.
You mentioned the Security Council and two key members there, the US and China. And the Secretary General of the UN warned these two countries ahead of the summit that they should find a way to repair their dysfunctional relationship. I guess these two figures will be watched quite clearly amongst a number of other leaders.
Definitely. It's going to be Joe Biden's first UN General Assembly. It's going to be the first time after Donald Trump left office. It's definitely a change of tone, a change of approach towards the UN. But Joe Biden is also coming at the difficult time for his foreign policy. Afghanistan's withdrawal is definitely something that was difficult for for American allies. Another topic right now is the defense agreement with the UK and Australia. So Biden's speech is going to be something to watch for. The topic that is expected to talk about are definitely going to be climate change, COVID-19 pandemic, and multilateralism. But those are very broad themes. So it may include other ones. It may, of course, bring up tensions with China. Xi Jinping, there was a last-minute change. It was supposed to send his deputy prime minister. But we saw today that he is going to send a pre-recorded video message that he himself has done. So that's also a big change. We're going to have Boris Johnson in person. French President Emmanuel Macron was supposed to come initially in person. Then he completely changed his plan and is sending his prime minister to speak. And also there are a lot of leaders from Africa that have decided to send a pre-recorded video message, including President Ramaphosa.
So how different do you think it's going to be this time around? I mean, you've covered a few of these. I was there about four years ago, and it is the busiest time in New York. I mean, you can hardly move. But the pandemic changed the game, and this seems to be the first time we're starting to see some real bodies walking around. So it'll be a hybrid, but what's it going to look like, do you think?
Yes, so last year was something very unusual for the UN. I mean, watching 200 pre-recorded video during a week was something that, you know, was very unlike the UN General Assembly. So that's something that diplomats really wanted to avoid this year. And although the U.S. really hasn't made it clear that it was important to send small delegations, a lot of delegations are likely going to be bigger than that. So only 4 delegates are allowed inside the UN headquarters at the same time, but there are going to be many side events. There's also the question of vaccine and even COVID-19 testing that has been controversial because the United States, the New York City authorities made it clear that delegates had to be vaccinated and had to show proof of vaccination, but the UN headquarters is still relying on an honor system. So that's going to be something to watch this week.
All right, so allies battling over the nuclear submarine deal. France is fuming, withdrawing its ambassadors, very angry with the US, the UK and Australia. Will that be something that'll come up, or will they try and talk it out on the sidelines?
Well, the fact that Emmanuel Macron changed his mind, did not record a video that was due tomorrow, says something. Now his foreign minister is going to speak later on in the week, so that probably means that by then he's going to have time to meet with his counterpart, probably his American counterpart, probably with his British counterpart, and maybe by then the situation is going to be better. But that being said, France has sent messages that they are not happy with the situation. And it's not only France. I've also talked to countries in the region, in the Pacific. I've talked to Marshallese authorities, and they are very unhappy about the decision where they weren't involved in that either, and they're there and they're living through the consequences, and they've been victims of nuclear disasters before. So these countries also would like to be listened to when these big powers make these important decisions.
All right. We spoke about Joe Biden a little bit earlier. He has got a lot on his plate. His image and the way that he dealt with Afghanistan, a big problem, one that he needs to try and find some words to explain, but also that this is his first time at the UN summit as president, and a lot of people will be looking for a message to suggest that there's a new order in the world as far as the US is concerned.
Exactly. And Joe Biden is going to speak very early in the high-level week, as usual. He's going to be second to speak after Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. So Joe Biden is going to set the tone for the week, and leaders are going to be watching. So it's going to be a make-or-break moment for Joe Biden. He's going to send a very strong message to the world, and leaders are going to listen, and then we're going to see what follows for the rest of the week.
What other issues do you think that the UN is perhaps not grappling with? I think you mentioned sustainability, and that's a big issue, climate change. There's a summit coming through. But are there other issues on the globe that perhaps are bubbling under that really should be getting more attention?
Definitely vaccine equity. That is a topic that I was told by Ambassador that many countries that do not have good access to vaccines are coming to talk about, and they're asking for vaccines to be more equitable. And we're talking about this at a moment where here in the United States, we're talking about booster shots. So if countries that have access to these vaccines want to be true to the commitment that they made to COVAX, that they made to these platforms, then they're going to balance their own national interests in grappling the pandemic at home, but in also making vaccines more accessible.
What do you think will be the message from the UN Secretary General? Because one gets a sense that, you know, when you are in your final term, you can be a bit freer with your speech, and he's been quite tough in recent weeks.
He has been a little bit tougher indeed, and it is going to be the first week, as you said, in his second mandate, so he does not have that electoral pressure where he was more limited in speaking out, especially against the permanent 5 members of the Security Council. So Antonio Guterres, the spotlight is also going to be on Secretary General Guterres because there are crises around the globe that world leaders are concerned about. He's going to give a speech tomorrow morning, and people are also going to listen to his speech. And indeed, many leaders are expecting him to be a little bit tougher in the way he speaks because he was criticized in the past on being a little bit too soft when talking about certain issues.
Stephanie Fillion, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Thank you for your insights. And I'm sure you're probably going to need lots of coffee during the course of this week.
Yes, coffee and a little bit of sleep.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Take care.